I always thought that family was supposed to be your safe place, the one place in the world where you could be yourself without fear of judgment, without fear of harm. Growing up, I held onto this fantasy like a lifeline, especially when things outside our house got rough. But inside our home, behind those locked doors, I was slowly learning a painful truth. Not all monsters hide under your bed. Some sleep in the room next to yours and sit at the dinner table smiling like nothing's wrong. My sister Elena was the golden child, the center of attention, beautiful, loud, and confident, but cruel in all the ways that mattered. She knew exactly how to twist a story, how to weaponize tears, how to make herself look like the victim even when she was the one throwing punches. Sometimes literally, my mom adored her, blindly, unquestionably. It didn't matter what Elena did. To her, Elena was perfect. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, always in the background, always second place in my own home. I tried to stay out of the way, keep my head down, focus on school and work. But Elena made that impossible. She would take my clothes without asking, ruin them, and then laugh in my face when I complained. Once she stole money from my wallet, money I had saved for groceries, and when I confronted her, she spun it into a joke, saying I should be happy to feed family. And every time something like this happened, I'd look to my mom for help, for a sliver of fairness, but all I ever got was the same condescending tone. You're the older one, Zara. Be the bigger person. That line became a weapon. It told me my pain didn't matter, that I was expected to absorb the abuse in silence because that's what mature people do. But how do you stay mature when you're constantly being trampled on? I started to feel invisible in my own home. Like I didn't exist except to be blamed or used, and slowly, I began to realize something far more disturbing than my sister's behavior. My mother saw everything and chose to ignore it. She wasn't blind. She just didn't care, or maybe, worse, she liked it that way. The night after the fight, I couldn't sleep. Every breath felt like a knife slicing through my side. I lay curled up on my bed, unable to move without flinching in pain, while Elena laughed in the next room like nothing had happened. My mom didn't check on me, didn't bring me ice, didn't ask if I could breathe. She just made dinner like it was any other night and called out, "Dinner's ready," like we were still a happy little family. I couldn't even stand without tearing up from the pain, so I stayed in bed, hungry, hurting, and humiliated. And the worst part, I was still hoping she would come, that maybe she would realize what had happened and apologize. That she'd show a shred of compassion. She didn't. The next morning, I went to the ER by myself. I told the doctor I had fallen, even though I knew he didn't believe me. He asked if I felt safe at home. I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream that my sister had broken my rib and my mother had laughed, but I just nodded, because the truth was, I didn't know what would happen if I told. I was afraid. Afraid that no one would believe me. Afraid that it would only make things worse. I came back home with a prescription for painkillers and a doctor's note recommending rest. I handed it to my mom like a child handing over a bad report card. She didn't even read it. She glanced at me, scoffed, and said, "You're being so dramatic. If you had just stayed calm, none of this would have happened." That sentence hit me harder than the dresser ever did. She wasn't just excusing Elena's violence, she was blaming me for it. Somehow, I had become the villain in my own story. After that, everything got worse. Elena mocked me constantly, called me weak, pathetic. She even told her friends what happened and twisted the story into some joke where I attacked her first. And she barely touched me. They laughed about it like it was some stupid TikTok prank. She made a video, too. A reenactment of the fight, exaggerated, fake tears, pretending to be the victim while making me look like some psycho sister who needed therapy. Something inside me changed the moment I saw that video. It wasn't just the lie. It was the way she smiled while telling it, the way she took my pain and turned it into content, into likes, into entertainment, and the way people believed her. The comments were full of support for her, calling her brave, saying, "Wow, your sister sounds insane. Good for you for standing up to her." I sat there, watching the screen in disbelief, and for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't run to anyone for help, because I knew no one was coming. No one was ever coming. If I wanted justice, I had to get it myself. I deleted every trace of that video from my phone and replaced it with a new app, a voice recorder. Then I ordered a mini camera online, the kind you could hide in a lamp or a picture frame. While I waited for it to arrive, I started recording everything I could, every passive, aggressive comment, every insult. Every time my mother said something twisted or heartless, I knew it wouldn't be enough to just tell the world what they had done. I needed to show them. The camera arrived 2 days later. I installed it in my bedroom, aimed it at the door and most of the room, careful to make it look like just another wall decoration. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Within a day, I had video of Alina bursting into my room, screaming about how I had stolen her charger, then throwing my books off the shelf and calling me a pathetic rat. My mom walked in halfway through, and instead of stopping her, she joined in, telling me I was mentally exhausting and manipulating everyone with my victim act. I cataloged it all, organized it into folders. I gave them names: emotional abuse, verbal attacks, neglect, gaslighting. I even kept screenshots of Alina's TikTok videos and DMs she sent to people mocking me. Every piece of evidence was a brick in the wall I was building. A wall that I would one day collapse on top of them. I stopped reacting around them. I stopped fighting back. I became silent, invisible, and while they thought I was finally learning my place, I was planning theirs. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Alina had applied for a prestigious university scholarship, one she'd been bragging about for weeks. It was everything to her. Her ticket to freedom, fame, and her dream life. She paraded around the house like a queen, acting as if the world already belonged to her. My mom was over the moon. She cleaned the entire house just because someone from the scholarship committee was scheduled to visit for a background interview. Suddenly, the same woman who called me lazy and dramatic was polishing the living room windows at 10 p.m. Just to make a good impression. The hypocrisy was almost laughable. That night, while my mom and Alina were asleep, I sat at my desk with my laptop open, heart pounding. I selected one of the worst recordings. It was audio. Alina on the phone with a friend, laughing. Her voice crystal clear as she said, "I literally broke my stupid sister's rib, and my mom covered for me." Like, how iconic is that? She totally deserved it. The smugness in her tone made my blood boil. I attached the file to a throwaway email and sent it to several news pages, a few university forums, and anonymously submitted it to the scholarship board's contact portal. Then I shut the laptop and went to sleep. By morning, it had exploded. The clip was on Reddit, on TikTok, even reposted on Twitter by a few influencers who had no idea who we were but couldn't ignore the sheer toxicity in the recording. Hashtags like #sibling abuse and #protect the victims started trending. My phone buzzed nonstop. I stayed quiet, letting the fire grow on its own. By noon, the scholarship board had called off Alina's interview. By evening, she was crying in the kitchen, begging Mom to do something. My mom, furious and confused, tried to shift the blame. Claimed it was AI, that someone had edited the voice, but it was too late. Too many people had heard it. Too many had recognized her voice, her words, her cruelty. Then came the emails. The college opened an investigation. The scholarship was officially withdrawn. Some of her old friends unfollowed her. Even her Instagram comment sections turned ugly. People demanded answers. Called her a liar, an abuser, and me. I watched in silence. I never said a word publicly. I let them assume the truth all on their own. But behind the scenes, I began releasing more evidence, bit by bit. The verbal abuse, the gaslighting, the laughter from my mom when I told her I was in pain, all of it was laid bare, like rot under a spotlight. Looking back, people often ask me if I regret it, if I feel guilty for what I did to my sister and my mother. And I always give the same answer. No, I don't, because I didn't lie. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't create drama out of nothing. I simply revealed the truth they worked so hard to hide, the truth they buried beneath fake smiles, sweet words, and family photos that meant absolutely nothing. They wanted to protect Alina's future. They begged me not to ruin her life. But what about mine? What about the pain I carried alone in the dark? What about the broken rib, the humiliation, the nights I cried myself to sleep in silence? They didn't care when it was me suffering, they only cared when the spotlight turned back on them. Now I live in a different city. I have my own place, my own peace, no yelling, no blame, no gaslighting. Just silence and healing. My sister is still trying to rebuild her reputation. My mother refuses to talk about what happened, pretending the whole world just turned against them for no reason. But people haven't forgotten. And I don't think they ever will. Some scars aren't visible, some bruises aren't on your skin, but that doesn't make them any less real. And sometimes the only way to heal is to burn the lies down and let the truth rise from the ashes. That's not revenge, that's justice, and I gave it to myself.